Mark Gator Rogowski was one of the biggest stars in skateboarding throughout the 80s until he suffered a severe accident at a West Germany hotel. The skater fell from his window and landed on a fence, resulting in critical injuries including a broken neck. After his career quickly fell off and his girlfriend broke up with him, Rogowski raped and murdered one of his ex's friends and was sentenced to 31 years in prison. Earlier this month, Colombian police announced the arrest of a 22-year-old hitwoman known as the Doll. She had reportedly carried out several gang-related murders including her ex-boyfriend, and was known for her expert handling of firearms. After witnessing mass murders at various concentration camps during the Holocaust, Nazi officer Kurt Gerstein tried to alert the world that the Holocaust was happening. In 1942, he made detailed reports to Swiss, Dutch, and Swedish diplomats, but they were largely ineffective. Gerstein ended up taking his own life in 1945. After reportedly losing custody of her kids for child cruelty, 36-year-old Florida woman Tara Sykes managed to communicate with her 10-year-old daughter through Roblox and used the online game's chat feature to encourage the girl to murder her 2-month-old sibling. The woman allegedly instructed her daughter to drop the baby on a hard tile floor, scald him in boiling hot water, and drown him in the bathtub. The infant suffered serious injuries after being dropped on the floor, but thankfully survived. Sykes also instructed the girl to kill her temporary guardians by slitting their throats as they slept and dousing their sheets with aerosol spray before setting them on fire. The 10-year-old girl doused the sheets but was unable to carry out the rest of the instructions. The disturbing messages were eventually uncovered during an investigation, and Sykes is facing a multitude of charges. The child allegedly told authorities that she's terrified of her mother and thought the woman would kill her if she didn't follow the instructions. When 1930s musician Ross Colombo was accidentally shot and killed by his best friend, his siblings went to great lengths to hide the news from his mother, who suffered from a serious heart condition. They wrote fake letters to her and played records to simulate his radio show. This continued on for a decade until she passed away in 1944. Shortly after getting married, English mother Mary Ann Bevan developed a hormonal condition called acromegaly that completely distorted her face, resulting in her losing her job as a nurse due to her ugliness. After the passing of her husband, Mary was left with no choice but to join the circus so that she could still support her 4 kids. She was nicknamed the ugliest woman on earth and endured daily ridicule for the last 13 years of her life just so she could continue to feed her family. American man Bob Fletcher took care of the farms of 3 Japanese-American families while they were interned during World War II. Despite being shot at for supporting them, Bob kept all their farms running and paid their bills, ensuring that the innocent families didn't lose everything. During the Parkland shooting in 2018, a 15-year-old student named Anthony Borges was shot 5 times while barricading the door to his classroom. He successfully stopped the shooter from entering, saving all 20 of his classmates, and eventually went on to make a full recovery. During a trip to Africa in 1896, American taxidermist Carl Akeley survived a leopard attack by ramming his hand down the cat's throat and choking it to death. Today, Carl is known as the father of modern taxidermy for his innovative techniques, and is also remembered for inventing the nature dioramas that are popular at museums. A Russian kitchen worker named Zinaida Portnova is known for killing more than 100 Nazis by poisoning their food when she was only 16. While being interrogated by the Gestapo, she disarmed the Nazi detective and shot him in the head. She then murdered 2 more Nazis with the same gun before being killed while attempting to escape. Nicknamed Black Death, Henry Johnson was a member of the Harlem Hellfighters who single-handedly stopped a German ambush in World War I. Despite being stabbed, shot, and hit with a grenade, the 5'4" soldier injured or killed 24 German enemies without a working gun. He was the first American soldier to win a Croix de Guerre, France's highest honor for bravery. After finishing his regular 12-mile run in 1976, Armenian swimming champion Shavarsh Karapetyan witnessed a trolley bus filled with 92 people crash into a freezing cold reservoir. Despite the sewage-infested water with poor visibility, he swam down 30 feet deep and broke the bus's back window with his legs. He then dove down 20 separate times, pulling out a total of 37 people, 20 of whom survived. Shavarsh then spent 45 days in the hospital, suffering from glass cuts, pneumonia, lung damage, and sepsis, which abruptly ended his swimming career. Reflecting on the rescue, he was once quoted saying, "It was so dark down there that I could barely see anything. One of my dives, I accidentally grabbed a seat instead of a passenger. I could have saved a life instead." That seat still haunts me in my nightmares to this day. Less than 10 years later, Shavarsh ran into a burning building, saved multiple lives, and once again spent an extended time in the hospital due to severe burns. In 2013, double amputee and 4-time Paralympic gold medalist Oscar Pistorius shot his girlfriend 3 times through a locked bathroom door, claiming he mistook her for an intruder. During his murder trial, Pistorius removed his prosthetics and hobbled on his stumps, while apparently attempting to garner sympathy and a more lenient sentence. But the judge wasn't buying it and sentenced the athlete to 15 years in prison for murder. This is the skeleton of a female vampire pinned to the ground with a sickle across her throat to prevent her from returning from the dead. It was found during an archaeological dig at a 17th century cemetery in Poland. In the late 1800s, there is an urban legend about a demonic figure roaming around the Arizona deserts that killed multiple people. It turned out to be a feral camel with the decaying corpse of a male soldier strapped to its back, likely the tragic result of Jefferson Davis's attempt to create a camel division in the U.S. Army. After the divorce of his parents, Jack Black got mixed in with the wrong crowd and became severely addicted to cocaine at the young age of 14. It got so bad that he would steal money from his mom to fuel his addiction, but was eventually able to kick the habit after switching schools. Jack also lost his gay older brother Howard to AIDS at the height of the epidemic in 1989. In 2009, an Italian brain surgeon was having a heart attack in the middle of performing a delicate operation. But instead of getting treatment, he powered through the surgery upon realizing that his patient may have died if he stopped, and both made a full recovery. In 2009, U.S. Marine Brian Dennis was stationed in Iraq when he met a stray desert dog named Nubs. After someone brutally stabbed the dog with a screwdriver, the Marine nursed him back to health despite expecting him to die. They developed such a strong bond that when the unit left, Nubs picked up Brian's scent and trekked 70 miles through an active desert war zone to be with him. Dennis soon shipped the dog to his home in San Diego, and the two have been best friends ever since. Christine Palillo was a bullied outcast at school until 2 popular girls befriended her and gave her a makeover, helping her achieve the title of Miss Irresistible from her school's student body. But just a few months later, Christine and her drug addict boyfriend would end up brutally murdering the girls and 2 others in a botched drug deal. One of the girls tried desperately crawling to her phone after being shot in the groin, until Christine bashed her skull in with the butt of her revolver. Serial killer Dennis Rader used to install security systems for homeowners. Many of his clients wanted the security systems to keep the BTK killer from ever entering their homes, unaware that he was in fact the one installing them. In 2017, Glenna Durham killed her husband after shooting him 5 times. Soon afterwards, the couple's pet African gray parrot started repeating the words "don't effing shoot" in the husband's voice. These were assumed to be the husband's last words, and the woman was eventually found guilty of first-degree murder. In 2020, a fan drove 3 hours to deliver a much-needed dose of insulin to rapper Boozy Badass. She refused to accept any compensation other than a photo with him. On her way home, she stopped at a gas station, bought a scratch-off ticket, and won 10 grand. A man named Walter Summerford was struck by lightning 3 times throughout his life. After his death, his grave was also struck. In 1977, a Spanish woman decided not to reboard her flight and stayed at the layover location even though this was against the rules. She ended up being the sole survivor of a collision that killed 583 people, the deadliest crash in aviation history. In 1935, a fisherman reeled in a tiger shark in Australia and put it on display at a Sydney aquarium until it vomited a human arm. A shark expert later concluded that the arm had not been bitten off but was cleanly removed with a blade. This resulted in a murder investigation and the eventual arrest of the killers. Lauren Kreitzer was broke, depressed, and disabled after losing his leg in a car accident in 2007. But one day he saw a blanket valued at $500,000 on Antiques Roadshow and realized he had the exact same blanket. It was a Navajo blanket from the 1800s that he ended up selling for $1.5 million and quickly turned his life around. In 2010, Mexican singer Sergio Vega publicly denied a news report that he'd been murdered. 1 hour later, he was murdered. During World War I, a 17-year-old British soldier's life was saved when his pocket Bible stopped a bullet. The book has been passed down through his family and still has the bullet embedded inside. The man who discovered the 5,000-year-old mummy Ötzi the Iceman would also end up being found dead, frozen in ice 13 years later. A Reddit user from California was gaming in his room when a stray bullet suddenly went through his window and struck him in the head. But he was miraculously saved by his Razer headset, which prevented the bullet from piercing his skull. In 1960, 12-year-old Howard Doley was given an unnecessary lobotomy because his stepmother wasn't able to handle a normal preteen boy. She took him to several doctors who said Howard was perfectly healthy and blamed his questionable behavior on her bad parenting. That was until Dr. Walter Freeman, the man who popularized the lobotomy, diagnosed him with schizophrenia and offered to scramble his brain. It took Howard decades to recover from the barbaric procedure, spending years of his life in institutions, prisons, as a homeless person, and an alcoholic. Howard eventually earned a college degree and wrote several memoirs about his lobotomy. In 2009, the body of a man with graying hair was found washed up on a beach in Sligo, Ireland. He'd been checked into a nearby hotel under the name Peter Bergman, and his movements were captured on security cameras throughout the town, but aside from this, very little is known about the man. He was found with most of his clothes left behind on the shore, with no wallet, money, or form of ID. It's not even clear how he died, since there was no evidence of drowning or foul play, but the post-mortem showed that he had advanced stages of prostate cancer and bone tumors, and was likely in significant pain before he died. One thing that's for certain is that the man traveled extensively to erase all evidence of his existence, as he still remains unidentified to this day. Florida puppeteer Ronald Brown was the host of a kids' TV show in the 1980s called Joy Junction on the Christian Network. But he was later found to be a child predator who had tons of CP and often fantasized in online chat rooms about kidnapping, torturing, murdering, and cannibalizing children. He was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison in 2012. A UK woman who was taking a nap with her mouth open ended up in the hospital for 3 days after her daughter's dog dropped a deuce in her mouth. This is what a rabies patient looks like when they've already developed symptoms. Rabies causes hydrophobia, where attempting to drink or even just looking at water causes intense clenching throat spasms. This is why rabid animals are often seen foaming at the mouth. Sadly, once a patient reaches this point, there's a 99.9% chance that they will die. Bubble boy David Vedder was born with a severe immunity disorder where he basically had no immune system at all, meaning even the most harmless germs could easily end up killing him. Because of this, he spent his entire life inside of a bubble and could only receive air, water, and food if it had been sterilized first. At age 12, David received a bone marrow transplant from his sister, the only treatment available that would allow him outside of his bubble. But the marrow sadly contained traces of a dormant virus, and David passed away a few months later. Kidam Cave in Kenya is believed to be the original source of Ebola and Marburg, two of the deadliest diseases known to man. A 2007 expedition found evidence that the vector species was most likely the African fruit bat, or more specifically, their guano. Either way, the cave is known to scientists as one of the most dangerous places on the planet. American actor and model John Eric Hexum was once seen as the next big thing in Hollywood due to his charming looks, charisma, and radio voice. But in 1984, he died on the set of the TV show Cover Up after accidentally discharging a blank cartridge into his skull. Hexum had apparently been playing Russian roulette with a prop gun during a break in filming, and the muzzle blast caused enough blunt force trauma to fracture a piece of his skull that propelled into his brain. Serial killer Israel Keyes went the extra mile to ensure that he would never be detected. He had no preferred victim type and never killed in the same area twice. For one murder, he flew to Chicago and drove 1,000 miles all the way to Vermont in a rental car, then used a murder kit he'd hidden there 2 years prior. When shopping on his murder trips, he always kept his phone turned off and only ever paid in cash. But Keyes was caught in 2012 after using a victim's credit card when he didn't have any cash on hand. In November of '99, the girlfriend of Panthers wide receiver Ray Caruth was shot 4 times and later died in the hospital. It was soon determined that her NFL boyfriend had hired a hitman to kill her after she reportedly refused to abort their baby. The baby ended up surviving, and Caruth went to prison for 19 years before being released in 2018. During a tense pro basketball game in 1992, Serbian player Boban Jankovic was frustrated with a foul call and slammed his head into a padded concrete post. He immediately dropped to the floor and was never able to walk again after badly damaging his spinal cord. Earlier this year, 44-year-old Pennsylvania man John Matthew Chapman was sentenced to life in prison after driving his girlfriend across the country and luring her into a Nevada desert for a bondage photo shoot. He then bound her to a signpost with zip ties, taped her mouth and nose shut, and watched as she died. In 2023, 92-year-old dementia patient Tom McDonald poured washing detergent over his bowl of cereal thinking it was milk. After eating most of the bowl, he told his daughter he wasn't feeling well and was soon rushed to the hospital, where he later died from acute toxicity. While 33-year-old actress Carol Lombard was on a war bond tour in 1942, she won a coin toss that determined she and her group would return home by plane instead of by train. Tragically, their flight would end up crashing into a mountain near Las Vegas, killing all 22 passengers on board, including 15 U.S. Army soldiers. 28-year-old Caitlin Jensen's life was changed forever after just a routine visit to the chiropractor. She went to have her neck adjusted for stiffness, during which 4 arteries in Caitlin's neck were accidentally dissected, resulting in a horrible stroke. She was reportedly without a pulse for 10 minutes until she could be revived by doctors. Caitlin was left with nearly full-body paralysis, only capable of blinking her eyes and moving her left thumb. In 2016, a man who'd been continuously stalking Miranda Cosgrove apparently plotted to murder her. For 3 days, the stalker had been burying various weapons in Cosgrove's backyard, including knives and a rope. One day, he spent hours pacing around the area and eventually shot at a woman who looked like the iCarly actress. The man then performed self-immolation before turning the gun on himself right in Cosgrove's yard. Miranda has stated that she still lives in the same house but refuses to stay there alone ever since that traumatic incident. Angelina Jolie was once so depressed that she tried to hire a hitman to kill her. She felt that a murder would be easier on her family than if she took her own life. But the would-be hitman talked her out of it by asking her to wait a month and reconsider her decision. The skin of certain fish species can be grafted onto severe burns and diabetic wounds. The material recruits the body's own cells and is eventually converted into living tissue. According to a recent study, people in the US who were born before 1996 have a lower IQ than those born afterwards. This is due to the negative effects of leaded gasoline, which was finally banned completely on January 1st, 1996. In the late 1980s, a woman went on a vacation getaway where singles could meet other singles. She quickly thought she met the man of her dreams and decided to sleep with him that night. But when she woke up in the hotel room the next morning, the man was gone and there was a small wooden coffin on the table next to her. Inside was a note that read, "You are now HIV positive. Welcome to the world of AIDS." In 2018, 18-year-old Cameron Herron was street racing against his friend before crashing his Mustang into a mother and toddler, killing them both. Here's his reaction to his sentencing of 24 years when he only expected a maximum of 10.
Court's going to adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 9 years in the Florida State Prison. On count 2, same charge, court will adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 15 years Florida State Prison, and that'll run consecutive to count 1, for a total 24 years Florida State Prison.
Nevada's Clown Motel shares its land with an abandoned cemetery, where most of the 300 people buried there either died in a mine fire or from a 1902 plague. In the year 2000, all 4 members of the Sedagaya family were stabbed and murdered in their own home. Afterwards, the killer remained in their house for several hours, eating their food, using their toilet without flushing, logging into the family computer, and even taking a nap on their couch. But despite an extensive effort, the killer was never identified. Nicknamed the Princess of R&B, popular singer Aaliyah lost her life in a tragic private plane crash when she was just 22 years old. Despite being warned that there was far too much wait for a safe flight, she and her entourage were eager to return home and demanded to leave immediately. Shortly after takeoff, the plane lost its balance and crashed just 200 feet from the runway, killing everyone on board. In 2013, the body of 17-year-old Kendrick Johnson was found inside of a rolled-up gym mat at his Georgia high school. Authorities later concluded that he had become trapped upside down while trying to retrieve his shoes, and eventually died from positional asphyxia. In 2019, the wife of Tampa Bay Rays prospect Blake Bivens was tragically shot and killed by her 18-year-old brother. Their newborn baby and the woman's mother were also victims of the random murder spree, which Bivens found out about from a headline he saw on Facebook. The picture later posted, "2 days ago my heart was turned to ash. My life as I know it is destroyed." Canadian serial killer nurse Elizabeth Wetlaufer told her pastor that she murdered 4 elderly patients by injecting them with insulin, and the pastor kept his promise to not turn her in. Afterwards, she would go on to murder at least 2 more patients before confessing to police. In 2021, 20-year-old Alex Kearns ended his life after thinking he lost $730,000 while trading options on Robinhood. He apparently saw the negative balance in his account and didn't know where to turn. The day after his tragic death, Robinhood sent Alex an email stating that the trade had been resolved and he didn't actually owe any money.